My name is Mildred Gaddis, and I love Aretha Franklin. Clarence, Eddie, Teddy, and Kelf, thank you for sharing your mother with the rest of the world. It is a sacrifice that most people could never, ever understand. We thank you for your sacrifices, and we honor you. Some people come into our lives and quickly go. Some come, stay for a while, touch our hearts, and we're never, ever the same. Aretha Franklin was more than a melody. She was born at a time when the world was an unsure and an unsafe place for a woman. Hello, world. Meet Aretha Louise Franklin. She was talented, she was fierce, and she stepped to the beat of her own drum. She was strategic, she was methodical, and she moved with precision. There are some folk who claim that they would rather be in a boxing ring with Mike Tyson than try to negotiate a deal with Aretha Franklin. She was not to be messed with. She was soft-spoken because she really understood that the loudest person in the room is the weakest person in the room. She was unapologetically black, she was gifted, and she was in love with her people. Aretha Franklin believed and knew that loving yourself and your people does not negate you loving somebody else. And so she made no apologies for being in love with black people. Through her own challenges and her pain, she taught us that royalty does not weep in the streets. In this era of reality TV and social media where people are hanging everything out, letting the world know, no, 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 no. That was not our Aretha. She had class. And whatever those issues were, she handled them privately. Imagine this. Aretha Franklin remained relevant for 60 years. For 60 years. Trends come and they go. Aretha Franklin remained relevant. Over her vast career, she created a lot of wealth. But the difference about Aretha and some people today is she didn't Facebook her cars and her mansions, and she didn't do any of that. She used her blessings to share them with other people. You couldn't catch Aretha having anything that had to do with material wealth, throwing it out all around for people to see. That's not who she was. And I think there's a lesson there for our 21st century friends. You've heard a lot today about Aretha's parties, and boy, did she throw some parties. But here's the interesting thing. You didn't know when you attended one of Aretha's parties if you would meet the president, the vice president, the late Johnny Cochran, the barber on the corner. That was Aretha. Aretha brought all of us with her as she climbed and achieved. And she always wanted, think about this, everybody who's had any kind of personal relationship with Aretha, she always wanted to give us experiences we had never had before in our lives. and they were all memorable experiences. She would take you and introduce you to Susan Rice, who was head of the National Security Council. She knew everybody by name. And it really mattered to her at the end of the party whether or not you had a good time, whether or not you enjoyed yourself, whether or not the food was okay. That's who our Aretha was. Huel Perkins, local TV anchor. Aretha called Huel over 15 times watching stories on television. She checked him a couple of times asking, why do you all have to run that story? But here's what she did. Aretha would see a family had been burned out, a child who was hit in the head. I don't know if it was a television or what fell on the child's head. She would say to Huel Perkins, get me the address. I want to send a check, and don't you tell anybody about it. That's who our Aretha was. Not very long ago, Aretha called me one night. And the first call was, and whenever we talked, it would be a brief, most of the time it was a brief phone call. This night, it was a 5-minute call. And within 3 minutes, Aretha called me back. And during that call, she talked about friendship. She talked about loyalty, and she talked about the future. It was a long conversation. And she talked about her long friend, Beverly Bradley, who was more like a sister friend as opposed to just a friend. And ladies, I want to tell you, we all need a Beverly Bradley in our lives. Because it was Beverly Bradley who, near the end, stopped her life, moved in with Aretha, and took care of Aretha and loved her and nurtured her and kept her happy. So much to the extent the nurses reveled at what they saw whenever they would come to check on Aretha. That's what true friendship is about. That's what loyalty is about. And that is what love is about. And when it became clear that the end was near and that there was a need to stay close to Aretha, Beverly told Aretha, I'm going to ride this one out with you. And she did just that. Beverly, we love you. We thank you. Aretha's passing leaves a great hole for a whole lot of us. For a whole lot of us. But she gave us so much to use and to keep moving. And if we truly love Aretha the way that we say that we do, we need to keep this legacy moving by honoring, by sharing, and understanding and knowing that whatever we have is not because of our own might. Like Aretha, God gave it to us for us to share. I am grateful for the friendship, Aretha, for the love that you've shown me. I bid you a good moving.
Hello, everyone. To the family, dignitaries, friends of Miss Aretha Franklin, it is with sad eyes and a very heavy heart that I stand before you today to celebrate our Queen, Aretha. I was introduced to Aretha by my mother. We grew up on the west side of Chicago. And before this thing called the women's rights, equal rights, the women's movement, before those catchphrases were out, Aretha and my mom, somehow they connected through the music. My mom was from Vicksburg, Mississippi. And in the 60s, in the 70s, my mom would sit in the windowsill humming the words to I Say a Little Prayer for You. And Tyler, my mom was no different than yours. I seemed to always know what was going on between my mom and dad by Aretha's music. My father had just lost his job, so the music, I Say a Little Prayer for You, meant a lot to us in the household at that time. Aretha found a way to comfort my mom and to comfort us all during those troubling times. I got to know Aretha personally when I first got here to Detroit. I was introduced to her, Karen, Sabrina, Kincaid. It was actually the first family I met when I got here to Detroit. And I see a lot of my friends in the audience, and I know a lot of you are smiling and thinking about how I was when you first met me and how naive I was about the world, about this thing called celebrity. I didn't know how to pay my bills. I didn't know how to pay a phone bill, electric bill. I knew nothing. And this family took care of me through some very tough times. I was honored to get to know Aretha, and she had a great love for sports. She loved the Detroit Pistons, and I know I was her favorite bad boy. But I got to tell you, there was nothing more inspiring for me to look up and see my mom sitting in the stands, sitting next to Aretha, sandwiched in between Stevie, watching a Piston game. And I would always pause sometimes during a game and just ask myself, I wonder if they knew how many nights they got my mom through and how many tears she shedded listening to Aretha's music. And to have my mom sitting right next to Aretha in the stadium was such a powerful and inspiring moment for me. So Aretha, I thank you. And as we mourn her loss today, I'm also reminded that we must celebrate and lift up to the heavens our queen, Miss Aretha Franklin. Because when the world was telling us, ain't no way, she found a way to inspire all of us with hope, with love, and dreams through her music. Her voice, her soulful instrument, found a way to help this nation soothe and deal with its troubled past. You know, recently, Clive Davis and I had the pleasure of escorting our queen to the Kennedy Center Honors in Washington, D.C. I was so humbled when she asked me to escort her. But I must tell you, I was kind of nervous too. Because I kept asking myself, how do you escort the Queen? And is there some type of protocol? I didn't want to embarrass her. I didn't want to embarrass myself. But I can still remember when she showed up and she took my arm and we walked the red carpet. And the ease of her stride and the comfort that she felt and the way she introduced me as if I was still and was a family member. Not just a friend, but as part of the family. And Clive, I know you remember, as we're standing there and she's being interviewed, she stopped during the middle of the interview and said, "Do you know Isaiah?" She always found a way to make us all feel comfortable and make us all feel good. Not only did she command respect, but she demanded respect. She lived an unforgettable life, and she left all of us with unforgettable memories. I just got back from Paris, France, and I'm sure this has happened to all of you over the last week or so. The spontaneous singing. You may be sitting in a restaurant. You may be in a hotel. You may be walking down the street. And before you know it, somebody is singing Aretha's song. And I know it's happened to all of you this last week. We were in a restaurant, and they started playing her music. And before you know it, everyone in the restaurant was singing and dancing, and they stopped eating. So the effect that she has had on the world, there are very few people who come along that can shift the consciousness of the world. There are very few people that come along that can move the universe by her being. What Aretha has done, she shifted the universe. And she moved us all, not only with her songs, but through her spirit and through her love. And we know her for her songs and we know her for her music. But as we look behind us, it wasn't just about the music. When this family first adopted me and I got here to Detroit, Aretha set me down, her and Coleman Young, Mayor Coleman Young. And they kept asking me, what are you going to do? What are you going to say about Detroit? And they taught me about Detroit. And they gave me the courage to speak on race, class, and gender while I was a champion. I'm going to miss you, Aretha. I'm going to miss our phone calls. I'm going to miss your words of wisdom and advice. The world is going to miss you. I want you to know I love you. The world loves you. And most importantly, Aretha, Detroit loves you. Thank you.
Aretha. Aretha is my friend, my sister. We met exactly 30 years ago in 1988 when she moved next door to my wife, Leslie, and me. At that time, our houses were the only two houses on the block, so we became very, very close. When I say Aretha is my friend, my sister, keep in mind that she was a single, rich, black woman living in a huge house by herself. There are not too many women that will call you up at 1 a.m. in the morning to come over and make sure her house is secure. And then every time after I finished checking out the house, she would just start talking about her two favorite topics, politics and her sons. Then she would usually end up, oh my God, singing and playing the piano in her pajamas, sometimes till 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning. Not for me, just that was her music. She's just sitting there in her element. Now, of course, just so you know, my wife always okayed me to go over there. Because of her love for Aretha. And I know that to be true because she has never given me the okay to go over any other woman's house at 1 a.m. in the morning. Aretha was a giving person. In 2003, I asked Aretha if she would mind stopping by the assisted living home where my mom lived for her 90th birthday, and if she would stop by and just say hello to my mom. I mean, that would be a big treat for my mom. Aretha said, I'll think about it. On my mom's 90th birthday, Wednesday, December 3rd, 2003, Aretha showed up at the assisted living house with her sons Teddy, Eddie, Brenda, Sabrina, backup singers, a full band, and performed for 1 hour for all the residents in the assisted living home. And then she topped it off by singing happy birthday to my mom. You ask Aretha for a little, and she will always give you more than you ask for. Family, I will never forget that day in my life. Leslie and I traveled with Aretha on her bus. Oh, that bus. From Detroit to New York to Los Angeles and around the country. Of course, that was just the first year only, because you will learn very quickly that Aretha would not allow the air conditioning on the bus because of her voice. So you learn to start flying and meeting Aretha at the final destination. I think Tyler Perry said that her dressing room was very hot. That bus was even hotter. She changed my life, my friend, my sister. That's what real friends do. Going to the Grammys with her year after year, to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when she was inducted, to the White House. I could go on and on. The people that I've met through Aretha, the presidents, the famous entertainers and athletes that grace our presence today, or award-winning record producers like Clive Davis, or the great educator and author Michael Eric Dyson. People that I've met over the years, all people that I personally really admire and respect. There are also people that I've met through Aretha that many of you have never heard of, and I admire and respect them also, such as her security detail. Security, if you've ever been part of Aretha's security, stand up, raise your hand in honor of Aretha. You know who you are. Hilton Kincaid, Ron Fleming, Corey, JJ, Fred Neal, Bill Cooper, Jeff, Marlon, Harry Kincaid, Al Denning, Brian, Tyrone, Robert Jackson, Darren, Staffy, Curtis, and Ken Myree, and others. These guys looked out for Aretha. These guys really cared, and not just for a payday. You know that when you're in the green room talking to them and listening to their concerns about her safety. I thank you for protecting my friend, my sister, and the Queen to all of us. In conclusion, to the friends that I've met because of Aretha, Will, Beverly, Dolores, Carlton, Greg Dunmore, Billy Bryant, Tanya, Tracy, Lisa, Zaretha, and others, we will always be friends. To the relatives, how do you mention the relatives? Sabrina, Brenda, Earlene, Bootsy, Vaughn, and I could go on and on. You know who you are. I love you guys, and I will always be there for the family, always. Finally, to the sons, Teddy, Eddie, Cal, Clarence, remember your family and friends that have been with you for years, because you're about to meet a lot of people that will now want to be your new best friend. You will also meet some people that will have the best investments in the world for you. My advice, go slow, be careful, and be smart. If you guys ever need a friend or a second dad to talk to, you've got my number. Give me a call. To Aretha. Aretha, my friend, my sister, I know I will see you again one day, sitting at that piano and singing those songs. And maybe the next time I'll be lucky enough to move next door to you. Thank you, and God bless.
To Bishop Ellis and Reverend Smith, to President Clinton and her husband Bill, to Attorney General, soon to be President Holder, and to Reverend Jackson and Minister Farrakhan. If some cosmic ethnographer were to drop down here and do a biopsy, an extract of living tissue of black genius, here today would be the veritable cornucopia of its radical expression. We done had all kind of singing up in here, from high European-derived classical composition to the gut bucket gospel grueling reality of our blues and soul traditions. We have heard singers hit high notes and pan the depths of the diapason stop of the range and scale of American music. But we are here for one voice, one reason, one woman who was a freakishly precocious woman, a bronze wunderkind of the gospel, born in the legendary rhetorical room she gestated in of her father, Clarence LaVon Franklin. She took me one day to the Triumph Awards, and there she had me attempt to explain his genius. C.L. Franklin practiced the species of black sacred speech called whooping. How does one explain whooping? The coarsened articulation, the striated diction, the elastic grammar, speech pressured by music that turns into song. You will quickly see one of the greatest exemplars of that rhetorical form in the presence of the Reverend Dr. Jasper Williams. But it was in that womb that she was born, and in that Mississippi mud arrived Detroit deity. Aretha Franklin at 14 sang "Never Grow Old." And in singing it, you could feel the theological prescience and the clairvoyance that God gave to her. She became a vehicle of the on-high purpose that was radiated in that beautiful brown body. And when Aretha sang at 14, she convinced people that indeed she would never grow old. But then she recorded the song again when she was 30 years old. And in recording that song on her epic Amazing Grace, where she gave us a vision of a return to the gospel world that her father claimed she had never left anyhow. And then when she sang that song about 5 minutes and 21 seconds in, on a 9-minute and 57-second song, you felt the volcanic eruption, the glissando, the melisma, stretching a single note across several syllables so that she could articulate the deep and profound realities that only song could capture. Aretha sang that song at 30 in a different way she sang it at 14. Why is that? Between 14 and 30, there was a whole bunch of living. She never loved a man the way she loved that man. She said, if you're going to be a man demanding a do-right woman, you better be a do-right man. Now, we know the great scholar Farrah Jasmine Griffin speaks about the inchoate feminist perspective, never calling her feminist because Aretha Franklin never called herself a feminist, but she had feminist sensibilities. The independent, autonomous reach of black female identity was regnant in her rhetoric. She was black girl magic before there was black girl magic. And so between 14 and 30, there was a lot of living. There was a chain of foods that she was conscribed into. There was the reality of the hurt and pain, the ardor, the ecstasy, the suffering, and the reality that we had to confront as a black people. And don't get it twisted, she was black without apology or excuse. And she was American without argument or exception. She was black because she was from the blackest city in the world, Detroit. I know y'all jealous. You from Chicago, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. You good, but you ain't got the D. Dardanetta Shrimp Shack, Fago Red Pop, Verner's Ginger Ale, Coney Island Hot Dog. The future hitched a ride in a Cadillac and found its destiny in a Ford. We had Motown music. I know everybody else had music, but y'all ain't had it like Detroit had it. The greatest artist ever produced, Mr. Stevie Wonder. The greatest songwriter ever, Smokey Robinson. And for a long while, the greatest entertainer, Mr. Michael Jackson. and the greatest singer in the world, Aretha Franklin. She was an edifying thief. She took other people's songs and made them her own. When Otis Redding heard her sing, he said, she done took my song. Oh, yes, she did, and he was glad she took it, because she spelled out in a way he never spelled out respect. She had to articulate it and enunciate it so folk could understand what she was talking about. Then in that belly of blackness in Detroit, without apology or excuse, that embrace of her blackness led her to be political. We got all kind of music now that ain't got nothing to do with nothing except cars and money and glory. I ain't mad at that, but she was about getting Angela Davis out of jail. She was about working with Martin Luther King Jr. and Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. She was about transforming the existence of black America. Now Negroes scared to say they black, scared to show up at a two-black place. That's why some black folk ain't here today. They sending letters. They don't want to get up in this blackness. They don't want to feel the nasty power of this blackness. We are black in Detroit. We don't care. Take your shoes off. Dip it in the water. Get baptized. And then this orange apparition had the nerve to say she worked for him. You lugubrious leech. You doppelganger of deceit and deviance. You lethal liar. You dim-witted dictator. You foolish fascist. She ain't worked for you. She worked above you. She worked beyond you. Get your preposition right. Then he got the nerve to say he gonna grab it. That ain't what Aretha Franklin said. I'm gonna give you something you can feel. Like the brothers in the street say, tap lightly, like a woodpecker with a headache. And so, don't you sully the memory of our great queen. Aretha Franklin was an original. Never one like her before, never another like her afterward. She was bold and brilliant and courageous and beautiful and indebted to the traditions that sparked our renewal. She refused to sell out. She remained herself all along in her life. And so as I take my seat, you got to remember Aretha Franklin gave us something deep and powerful. When she made her transition, Farrah Jasmine Griffin, the professor at Columbia, said she was doing work even after she died. When she made her transition, convictions came down. Immunity pleas were made. Folk got sent to jail. Even as an ancestor, she doing work. She moved from being the queen of soul to the queen of souls. She is indeed looking over us as our ancestor, never forgetting that she will walk with us. I had to go the other day from South Bend, Indiana, into Chicago, leaving Notre Dame, going to Chicago to speak. My ticket said the plane left at 4:33, but it arrived at 4:20. I had landed before I took off. If you ain't already at where you going, you ain't going to be there when you arrive. You got to already know where you heading. Aretha Franklin ain't just made no transition. She been building up her housing equity in another place with another God who loved her soul. She was already there. She said a prayer for us. She loved us. And now she is the queen of our souls. Long live the queen. Long live the queen.
The one and only Reverend Professor Michael Eric Dyson. At this time, we will have Jennifer Hudson. She will come with Amazing Grace. standing for the eulogist, the Reverend Dr. Jasper Williams, the Salem Baptist Church, Atlanta, Georgia. This is the family eulogist, eulogized her great father, her sisters, brothers, and now the Queen. Put your hands together for Reverend Jasper Williams.
34 years ago, almost to the day, August of 1984, a little more upstairs, if you will. 1984, thank you. I was privileged to deliver the eulogy for Dr. C.L. Franklin. And I opened that eulogy by asking everybody who was there to join me in his prayer hymn. And that was the way we opened it up. I'm going to ask the songbird of the South, Sister Dottie Peoples, to accompany me. Father, I stretch my hand to thee. No, no other help I know. If thou withdraw thine saying from me, oh, where the I go, Father, I stretch my hand to thee. No, Amen. I want to talk about what we all have mentioned on today, and this is my subject as I attempt to eulogize Aretha Franklin. My subject is Aretha, the Queen of Soul. Aretha, the Queen of Soul. Repeat after me, if you will. Aretha, the Queen of Soul. Sometimes during the month of May in 1964 at the Regal Theater in Chicago, Illinois, a local disc jockey by the name of Span Cooper officially anointed and crowned Aretha the Queen of Soul. But I have come here today to tell you, the people of the earth, that God crowned Aretha Queen of Soul long, long, long time ago. You may ask when. I'll tell you when. Back before the morning star. Back before the sons of God cried out for joy. Before there was a when or a where, a why or a which, a this or a that, God crowned Aretha Queen of Soul. We see that here in the second chapter of the first book of the Bible, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 says, "And the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." In this one verse, do we see the total being and makeup of mankind? This verse alludes to the trichotomy of man, that man is made up out of three entities. And it lists these entities: body, spirit, and soul. It says, "And the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground." That's man's body. In the Greek, it is suma. "And breathed into his nostrils the breath of life." That's pneuma, translated spirit. And then it says, "And man became a living soul." That's suchi, or the inner man, his emotions, his will. Man became a living soul. And so this word form, God formed man. It's like that of a potter that takes his clay and shapes it so as to form the vessel that he is trying to make. And this is saying, in essence, that God was totally involved in the fashioning of mankind, that God took that dust of the earth, took it and formed it and shaped it, configurated it until he got it like he wanted it to be. And then God stood it up, because it did not become he until he breathed into its nostrils the breath of life, and then he became a living soul. So then this is saying, in essence, as it relates to all of us, I am a spirit, I have a soul, I live in my body. I wish you would just repeat that after me, if you don't mind. I am a spirit, I have a soul, I live in my body. But when we hear the title Queen of Soul, how does that connect with God? Queen of Soul. Well, this title comes from our black culture. You know, when we talk about Queen of Soul, it alludes to a form of music that is known to us as soul music. So what is that? What is soul music? Soul music is a type of music that is a combination of some of all of the music. Jazz splattered with a little gospel, peppered with a little soul. It has all kinds of rock, and then meshed into an urban rhythm kind of blues is soul music. So with all of the various musics wrapped up into soul music, that's evidence of the fact that there must be a God somewhere. But what does this word soul mean? What is soul? I think it is appropriate right along through here if I would allow Aretha's father, the late Dr. C.L. Franklin, to come and stand before us and tell us Dr. Franklin, what soul is. Because back in 1955, Dr. C.L. Franklin created an album that was called the 23rd Psalms. And when he got to verse 3, where it says, "He restoreth my soul," he said something I would like to quote. He says, and I quote, "Soul is pretty hard to define. Nobody can really say what soul is." He said, as close as we can come to defining soul is to say that soul is that part of man that is a little bit like God. That means then that God in man is soul. Again, God in man is soul. Thank you, Lord. And so when we come down to this thing called soul, today in our world, we look at our world as it is flowing and going and moving, and it is quite obvious that with the world moving as it is, that mankind is moving toward losing his soul. One day, back in the days of slavery, there was this slave owner who was getting ready to travel abroad, and he called his top-notch slave and said to him, "John, I'm getting ready to go overseas, and I'll be gone for some several months, and I want you to take care of my child. I want you to take care of my child's clothes, take care of my child's shoes, take care of my child until I return." And then some several months went by, and John saw the boss coming down the road and ran to him and got down on his knees and said, "Master, sir, here are your child's clothes. I washed them, I rinsed them, I ironed and I folded them neatly. Master, sir, here are your child's shoes. I shined them and I buffeted them. But master, sir, I lost the child. I lost the child." One of these old days, that awful day, will surely come. Upon it I will make haste, when I must stand before my judge and give and face that solemn test. That would be a critical time for some of us, because we will say on that day, "Master, sir, that body you gave me, I cherished it. I bathed it. I showered it. I washed it. I brushed the teeth daily. Master, sir, I put colognes under the neck and perfumes on my body. I anointed it with precious creams and ointments. Master, sir, I wined and dined the body you gave me. I laid and played in the body you gave me. I huffed and I puffed with the body you gave me. I joked and I jest with the body you gave me. But, Master, sir, I lost my soul. How cold, how chilling, how non-redeeming. Listen. Master, sir, I lost my soul. I lost my soul. But what about your soul? What condition is your soul in today? That part of you that is supposed to be like God, where is it? What's going on? Have you lost your relationship with God? Have you? Let me tell you this. 100 years from this moment, it'll make no difference about how much money you got in your bank account. It'll make no difference about how many stocks and bonds and mutual funds you have invested in the Dow Jones index. It won't make any, never mind about how many men you have, women you have, what you've done, how she got mad with him because of what you said about her. 100 years from this moment, the only thing about any of us that will matter is whether or not your soul has been saved. That's all. That's all. That's all that will matter. But shift with me now, if you will, and come to where we are with the eyes of the world on us in this homegoing celebration of Aretha, the Queen of Soul. The question that I want to ask, how can we take this iconic stature of Aretha Franklin, who we deem Queen of Soul? I mean, how can we walk out of this room today and say that it is Aretha's life, it is Aretha's legacy that has brought about real, true change in our world on today? I mean, how can we do that? How can we say that her life and what she has involved herself in while here on earth, that in this moment of the last day of the month of August 2018, when we carried her to her final resting place, true change came to our world? How can we immortalize the Queen of Soul? Well, right in here, we see the United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. If we can see the Black America, the African American community, if we can just remove the veneer, take away the prejudice, lay aside the biasness, and take a good, clean look at where we are in Black America, if we are truthful, honest, and fair, we will have to say that Black America has lost its soul. The one thing that Black America needs today, more than anything else, is to come back home to God. Hush, listen. I hear the Queen echoing in the wind. Something must be done, done, done. Something must be done, done, done. Something must be done, done, done. The Queen is wanting to issue her mandate. She's wanting to sign her executive order. Something must be done, done, done. You may not know it, but Aretha did an awful lot for the civil rights movement. You've heard the various speakers talk about how she worked for Dr. King and took no monies for her services, how she mounted that podium and sang, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," when we buried him back in 1968. And one of the other main things that I don't think too many of us may have recognized, but it was Aretha who spoke out and delivered Angela Davis from the awesome situation that she found herself in. And the thing that I remember about it is that my uncle, Reverend A.R. Williams, in Memphis, Tennessee, was close confidant, bosom friend to Dr. Franklin. They played checkers every day. It was a time for them to kick back, unwind, relax, and talk smack one to another. And I remember Uncle Buddy, that's what we called him, talked about how it was that Reverend Franklin was disturbed about how Aretha went and got Angela Davis out of jail. And he hadn't heard that she was
connected with communism. And he did not want that to be a blight on his church and a blight on his ministry. And he pumped Aretha. Why did you do that, Aretha? Why did you? And she, out of hysteria, said, Daddy, she is a black woman and had nobody to help her, and I wanted to help her. Period. So I hear a voice again, rumbling through the echo of the wind. Something must be done. Something must be done. Something must be done. No one can deny that Black America, there is truly a need in our race. As I look back in retrospect, allow my mind to take a stroll back down memory's lane. There was a time when we as a race had a thriving economy. I remember we had our own little grocery stores. We had our own little hotels. They weren't big and fancy, but they were ours. I remember we even had our own little banks. Ladies and gentlemen, as bad as the days of Jim Crow and segregation were, the one good thing out of segregation that it did for us, it forced us to each other instead of forcing us on each other. And we quickly come to realize that as a people, all we really have is one another. But when we marched, when we protested, when we got through singing, we shall overcome. Yes, we were rewarded with integration. We got what we fought for. We got what we marched for. But with the birth of integration, there also came the loss of not only the black community's economy, but there also came the loss of the black man's soul. Oh, you ain't got to say it, man. I know I'm preaching to you. We lost our soul. Oh, God, Jesus, help me today. We lost our soul. Where is your soul, black man? As I look in your house, there are no fathers in the home no more. Where is your soul? 70% of our households are led by our precious, proud, fine black women. But as proud, beautiful, and fine as our black women are, one thing a black woman cannot do, a black woman cannot raise a black boy to be a man. She can't do that. She can't do that. She can't do that. Black man, where is your soul? A study was released not long ago by Tuskegee Institute, and in this study, it showed how the Ku Klux Klan has killed 3,446 black people over an 86-year span of time. That's an awful lot of black people for anybody to kill. But the study also revealed that black people killed that number of black people not once a year and not 86 years, but every 6 months. So you multiply times 2, the 3,446, that means that we kill 6,000 plus black people every year. And over that 86-year span of time, that equates to us killing among us 592,712 black people are killed by black people.
It amazes me how it is when the police kills one of us. We're ready to protest, march, destroy innocent property. We're ready to loot, steal, whatever we want. But when we kill 100 of us, nobody says anything. Nobody does anything. Black on black crime. We're all doing time. We're locked up in our mind. There's got to be a better way. We must stop this today. Think down, look down, walk down, talk down, act down. Most times we're low down. Where is your soul? And so, if you choose to ask me today, do Black Lives Matter? Let me answer like this. No. Black lives do not matter. Black lives will not matter. Black lives ought not matter. Black lives should not matter. Black lives must not matter until black people start respecting black lives and stop killing ourselves. Black lives can never.
My name is Lily Colson, and I'm 18 years old.
Walk around in our communities today, it hurts my heart. Everybody you see in our community walking around like zombies. You know, just whacked on crack. Everybody high. Everybody drunk. They walk up to you and try to reach for you. You shoo them off like they're flies. Where is your soul? Where is your God? So shift back and come to where we are. The Queen's legacy. The Queen's life. What can we leave here saying that the Queen of Soul has done, is doing, or will do that will impact us as a race to turn our race around? The eyes of the world are upon us today because of late Dr. C.L. Franklin. I mean, despite the fact that his marriage faltered and he and his wife broke up, we don't know really what happened, but we do know that he ended up having to raise 4 children by himself. No, I'm not saying that Dr. Franklin exercised the best parenting skills that there are. I'm not saying that. By no impression am I trying to perpetrate that to you, because he certainly did not. There was no way that a man called upon to preach the gospel as much as he did and have the awesome responsibility of pastoring his church. There's no way in the world that he could adequately raise through parenting skills. No way he could raise 4 children. Something in the home had to be wrong. There had to be some kind of deficit. And we can tell that it was a deficit somewhere because of the way the Queen sang. Most of the songs we heard her sing, particularly in her early years, we could feel the pain. We could feel the hurt. We could feel her backsets and setbacks in life.
We could feel her heartaches and heartbreaks in life because they met our heartaches. They met our backsets, our setbacks. We could feel that when she sang her song, Natural Woman, Ain't No Way. All of those songs that she sang, I'm not saying negatively about Dr. Franklin because I went down that same road. There's no need of me standing up here trying to make you think that my life has been squeaky clean, because it hasn't. Particularly when it comes down to the home, oh God, Jesus. When it comes down to where and what the responsibility of us as a race is in our home, with our children. When we fuss and when we argue and when we fight and separate and divorce, you're not cognizant of the fact that scars are put upon our children that sometimes they never see it until they get grown and get out on their own. And then they spot and see the scars that are upon their lives. But shift here with Dr. Franklin's situation as we look here at what he did with his children, where we are with our children. He still exercised as best he could parenting skills. Anytime we stray away from God's design for what the home is supposed to be, havoc will be our results. I mean, God has told us what to do with the home. He designed the home. I mean, God put in the home a man and a woman, a father and a mother. See, God put in the home a husband and a wife, a provider and a nurturer. The provider is to provide for the home, man's responsibility. The woman is to give nurturing, which means her role is to give the child love, affection that prepares him or her for love and affection when they get out of the home. See? And whenever a man is not there and the provisions are not made for the home, and whenever the mother is not there and the child doesn't learn how to nurture and be loved and thereby love, the womb is to the child before birth what the home is to be to the child after birth. And whenever you take a foreign object and you put it into the womb before that baby is born, that's abortion before birth. And when that home is not like it ought to be, the father's not doing his part, the mother not doing her part, and the child has deficits, that's abortion after birth. So as a race, Black America does not need better houses. Oh, we don't need no better houses. I know the government, big business and big corporations can provide for us better houses. They can give them to us. Sometimes we require and want to be given too much, too often. But a home is what I see black people need more than a house. We don't need better houses given to us. We need to make for ourselves better homes. Better homes. We need better homes. What did you say? What did you say? What did you say? Did you say, what's the difference in a house and a home? Well, may I tell you, there's a vast difference in a house and a home. A house is structural, but a home is spiritual. A house man's master design. But a home is God's divine design. A house is a place of work, but a home is a place of peace. Oh God, keep my mind today, Jesus. A house, it gives credit, leverage, and tax benefits. But a home gives neighbors, family, and community. A house has a 10, 15, 30-year mortgage. But a home has lifetime memories. God is in a home. Hell is in a house. No wonder nobody ever sings house, sweet house. But we always sing home, sweet home. So Dr. Franklin did not allow himself to be cramped into his daughter's future based on what he saw, not based upon what he thought. When he saw what his daughter had in her, he put her on a foundation so that she could rock steady baby. That's what he did. Sometimes we mess up our children when we force them to do and be what we want them to be. God does not give our children to us. God gives our children through us. And it's to be our responsibility to bring them to where God has destined them to be. So Dr. Franklin did a super fantastic job in making sure that his daughter had the kind of life in terms of her career. You may not know about it, but I remember like it was yesterday, the flack, the criticism, how they talked about him just because he wanted his daughter to live her life and to be who she came to be. He ain't no preacher. How can he be a preacher and he preaching the gospel and she's singing the blues? Back in that day and time, oh, how they talked about him. Everybody had thumbs down on C.L. Franklin preaching the gospel and letting his daughter sing the blues. I saw it with my own eyes. I remember it was in 1960 in Memphis, Tennessee, at Ellis Auditorium. The promoters had promoted this to be a night where Reverend Dr. C.L. Franklin will preach at 8 o'clock. And everybody will hear him preach his celebrated sermon. The eagle stirs her nest. And then they said at 10 o'clock, his daughter Aretha would be singing the blues. And everybody all over the city had thumbs down on Dr. C.L. Franklin. They were waiting for the crowd to come in at 8 o'clock, and they packed the house out thinking that everybody would leave, and the other R&B, rhythm and blues crowd would come in at 10 o'clock. And when he got through preaching the eagle stirs the nest, I see him just like it was yesterday. He took his scarf, put it around his neck, put his overcoat on, and sat down. Part of the people started getting up, going out. Other crowd was coming in, and there was pure commotion and confusion. And when he sensed how confusing it was, this parent gets up and goes to the microphone and grabs it again stands there and say, I don't know what's wrong with you all. Why you're treating me and acting like you are. I mean, Aretha is my daughter. You all think that I'm not going to sit here and listen to my daughter? If you think that's the case, what you need to do is go on and let whoever come in, because I am getting ready to sit down on this stage and listen to my daughter sing the blues. And then you turn around and say, Aretha, come on out here, baby, and sing the blues to your daddy. And everybody in that place sat down. That's not the end of the story, though. Here's the end. The same crowd who had shouted when he preached, the eagle stirred her nest. All of us shouted all over again when Aretha sang, Ain't No Way. Because that was his love for his daughter. So the key to our race and where we are now, we got to have a home. We got to turn our home, turn our houses back into a home. And so as I leave you, I just want to tell you, I'm calling for pastors and preachers of the gospel across denominational lines, across racial lines, across religious lines. I'm calling upon us to lock our arms together now, and we can turn Black America around. You say, where shall we go and what shall we do? Right in your own neighborhoods where your church is. There are struggling single moms that don't know what to do, that needs a man in the house through mentoring programs and parenting our children. We can turn Black America around. And so the Queen is saying to us, something must be done. Something must be done. If you would just hush and listen with me on the day, you can hear her voice saying, it's time now that my race turns its direction around and come back home to our God. As we stop here today and look at how our world is moving, civilization is torn by degradation, flirting with doom and disaster. High-mindedness runs like a mad dog and is beating in uncertain paths. Selfishness has evaporated the milk of human kindness, while pain and panic are chasing each other like June bugs in the summer sun. Oh, Lord, it's time now that we turn around and try to get our soul back. The Queen of Soul has spoken now. Time now for Black America to come back home. Oh, Lord, we've wandered far away from God, but now it's time to come home. The path of sin, too long I've wronged. Now I'm coming home. Right on, King Jesus. Oh, it's a shame how wild we've allowed our children to be. Nobody can do anything with our own children. The teacher can't handle our children. The pastor in the church can't handle our children. The police in the streets can't handle our children. Oh, it's time. Oh, shucks, I'm about to get happy here now. To turn Black America around. Oh, Lord, whatever way the home goes, that's the way the world goes. Did you hear what I'm saying? As the home goes, so goes the street. As the street goes, so goes the neighborhood. As the neighborhood goes, so goes the city. As the city goes, so goes the state. As the state goes, so goes the nation. As a nation, so goes the world. Right on, King Jesus. I heard somebody saying a long time ago, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. I don't believe that, children, because it's so hard to love somebody and know that they hate you. It's hard to have love, but Aretha, the queen of soul, told us all we need to have is a little respect. Did I have a witness here? I heard her sing R-E-S-P-E-C-T. A little, have a little, ooh, just a little respect. Congress needs to respect each other. The Democrats need to respect the Republicans. The Republicans need to respect the Democrats. The liberals need to respect the conservatives. The conservatives need to respect the liberals. The straights need to respect the gays. The gays need to respect the straights. Everybody. Oh, shucks, I would have had a witness here. Everybody. Everybody ought to give a little respect. I'm through now, children. The queen did what she could, but it's time now for us to do what we can. I say the queen did what she could. It's time now for us to do what we can. I got one more thing to tell you. If when you give the best of your service, God will, God will, God will, God will, God will. Anybody know he will? Anybody know he will? God will take care.
Come on, put your hands together. The Reverend Jasper Williams. Somebody say the Queen of Soul. While we're waiting to set Stevie Wonder up to close us out, we're so thankful to have a delegation from South Africa, from the government and President Ramaphosa. Where's this delegation? If they're in the room, if they can stand or wave at us. Give God praise for them on today. Please receive to the stage at this time as we prepare for the close with Stevie. One who has also been a Detroiter during much of her life. She told us that sometimes you have to take a midnight train to Georgia. That you are the best thing that ever happened to me. Brothers and sisters, put your hands together for Miss Gladys Knight.
Good evening, my brothers and sisters. She's doing it again. It's been a great journey, and he knows our every need, everywhere we are, and he gives us the remedies to everything, one way or the other, because he loves us like that. Even in our music, he sends us messages. And the little pain that we feel right now, we can put it toward this end and say, when you walk through the storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of this storm is a golden sky and a sweet silver song of a love. So just walk on through the wind. It'll be over after a while. Walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and worn. Walk on. All you gotta do is walk on. Just keep walking, walking, walk on, walk on, walk on. Through the rain, and you'll never walk because you'll feel it sometimes. You'll say, when you weary, feeling small, like right now, when tears are in your eyes, he said, because he said, I'm on your side. Oh, yes, I am. When you need a friend, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And your friends just can't be found. Oh,
bit of imagination.
Me
giving all praise to God. For the truth is, were it not for God's goodness, greatness, we would have never known the Queen of Songs. We would have never known the joy that she brought to us. We've never known someone who could express in song the pain that we felt. And yes, the reason that we are here today is because of love. Because of how much we love this woman. The blessing from God was given to us. As we talk about all the things that those have talked about today, please remember the greatest gift that we've been given in life itself is love. Yes, we can talk about all the things that are wrong, and there are many. But the only thing that can deliver us is love. So what needs to happen today, not only in this nation, but throughout the world, is that we need to make love great again. Because lives do matter. Because lives do matter. And if we love God, then we know truly it's our love that will make all things better. When we make love great again. That is what Aretha said throughout her life. Through the pain, she gave us the joy and said, let's make love great again. I never imagined that when I wrote this song at the age of 15, Aretha Franklin would be singing Till You Come Back to Me. But she did. And better than I could have ever